It is October 25, 2023, third day of jury selection in the high-profile trial against South Florida dentist Charles Adelson, who was facing multiple charges, including first-degree murder, for allegedly ordering a hit on his former brother-in-law, Dan Markel. But instead of his actual defense attorney, Dan Rashbaum, handling the jury selection process, there was a new man in town, jury selection consultant and attorney Joshua Dubin, who also brought with him his own team to help in his effort to select a good jury for his client's case, a jury that Charles Adelson hoped would find him not guilty of the murder. Charles Adelson was represented by two defense attorneys who would be involved in the trial, Dan Rashbaum and his colleague Kate Myers, also of South Florida. In the lead-up to the trial, there was a lot of mystery about what the defense would be. Mr. Rashbaum had indicated multiple times that his client was innocent, but little was known about the trial strategy Mr. Rashbaum would adopt in defending Charles Adelson. At the start of jury selection, we got the first surprise. There were other lawyers at the defense table, in addition to Dan and Kate, with attorney Joshua Dubin taking the lead during the jury selection process. On most of the first day, and in the beginning of the second day of jury selection, the lawyers were asking questions of the jurors individually, in the jury deliberation room, away from the cameras. But at the end of day 2, the group questioning began. Prosecutor Georgia Cappleman went first, and then late in the afternoon, Joshua Dubin started his questioning. From the start, Mr. Dubin was abrasive, mocking some of the examples Georgia Cappleman used to identify how the prospective jurors felt about issues that might come up in this case. Then, Mr. Dubin did some questioning of his own, but he had to stop midway through his questioning. Episode 1 of this series contains portions of Day 1 and Day 2. Episode 2 has 2 videos. Episode 2 original has become a members-only video, after being public for 48 hours. It contains the full 3+ hours of group questioning by Ms. Cappleman and Mr. Dubin on Day 2 of jury selection. A second version was created, Episode 2 Highlights. That has some of the highlights from the original video. Now we are off to Episode 3, this video. Here we go.
Everyone can be seated. Good morning once again, prospective jurors. We are going to continue with group voir dire this morning. The defense is going to continue its inquiry at this time. Mr. Dubin, are you prepared to proceed?
I am, Your Honor. May I?
You may.
Thank you. Good morning, folks. Yeah. Thank you. How's everyone doing? Sleep well? Did any of you see anything about the case last night when you left? News flash? Okay. I'm sorry?
Port TV truck.
Oh, what's that?
Port TV truck outside the building yesterday.
Okay. That was actually going to be my first question. So, you saw the Court TV truck. How did that make you feel?
Annoyed that they might try to figure out who the jurors were and ask us questions that they had no business asking.
Okay. You're good. You plucked the question right out of my head. That's what I want to talk about. And if you didn't notice it already, I think you're going to notice it at some point, that there's an additional camera there today and an additional camera back there. I'm going to let His Honor explain it to you in terms of what that means regarding your identities. So let me take a beat and let His Honor explain that to you.
During the course of the voir dire questioning and also during the trial, if any of you are picked, your images will not be broadcast, your identities will not be released to the public. However, when the trial has concluded, the identities of who participated as the jury, they are a public record. They can be requested. Your names would be known, your addresses would not be known, and of course, you would not have to speak with anyone if you choose not to concerning your service.
Thank you, Your Honor. May I proceed? Thank you. So, Dr. Rubino, I appreciate your candor on that. So let's just try to keep it here and not worry about that for now. But it's hard to ignore, right? So what about it annoyed you in terms of just an invasion of your privacy, or what? Talk to me about it a little bit, if you will.
I used to work for the Florida Department of Health, and I left in March 2020. I'm an epidemiologist specializing in infectious diseases, and I had a lot of reach out by reporters trying to get me to give salacious information about the work that I used to do for the department and understanding the reasons for my exit. So when I saw that, I was a bit concerned that that was going to be an additional attempt of reaching out for kind of information that folks don't need to have. It's not mine to give.
Right. Thank you again for sharing that with us. How many of you feel uncomfortable, as Dr. Rubino does, even if it's for different reasons, with the cameras and the fact that your name will be disclosed after trial? Not disclosed, but will be available publicly. Tell me about that. Your addresses will not. Yeah. People are slipping through with your rookie card and asking for an autograph.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
So I shouldn't ask you to sign a card. No, I understand. It's a weird world in that way, isn't it? That you can just go and find someone's address, and I understand it. Yeah, it's. I mean, let's just talk about it. I mean, is anyone uncomfortable, in addition to Mr. Weaver and Dr. Rubino, that your name will be publicly available as a juror in this trial?
I'm not uncomfortable that my name will be available. It's obviously not the most fun thing in the world, but I think my bigger concern is that the information that people are trying to gather is perhaps inaccurate, might be used for sensationalizing an event, and could impact the ability of everybody involved to receive a fair and accurate trial.
That you listen. I don't know where they got you from, but you're like. I've never heard that one, but you are. I mean, if that means that she's awesome, then I agree. So, yeah, I mean, I understand. The one thing about our people have a lot to say about our system of justice in America. I'm not going to share my views on it because it's not appropriate at this time. But one of the sort of core aspects of it that sets us apart from the rest of the world is that we bring our disputes to the community, and the community decides. So it's sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because there is, it's ensuring the fairness by allowing it to be open to the public, but open to the public is taken on a new meaning, right? Are you uncomfortable? Would you be uncomfortable serving on the trial due to the fact that your name would be disclosed after, and or because of the cameras? I mean, the cameras aren't going to broadcast you, as Your Honor explained, but...
I'm not uncomfortable serving.
Okay.
I don't like the idea that folks would be... I know what to do to protect myself against people trying to connect with me and influence me. But it's disappointing that people would know the importance of the judiciary process and to take steps to try to manipulate it or influence it.
Yeah. Would you like to stand up?
My mother hoped for me to be a lawyer.
So does anybody else share even a little bit of, I mean, you could do like, maybe I'm dating myself by saying this, you could do like Nancy Reagan said and just say no. No, that one didn't land. Just say, if people contact you, you have the right to say, no, I'm not going to speak to you. No, I don't want to talk about this. But how many of you would feel even a little bit? So I'm not asking for absolutes here. How many of you would feel even a little bit uncomfortable knowing that this case obviously has taken on some significance in the community? How many of you would feel uncomfortable if the state didn't meet their burden, even though it might be an unpopular decision in the community? How many of you would be uncomfortable, given the public scrutiny, saying, I sat as a juror and I found Mr. Adelson not guilty? No one? Besides Mr. Weaver? We've already, yeah. How about you, Ms. Walker?
No, I'm actually kind of excited about learning more about this particular case so that I can make an educated decision.
Mr. King?
Pardon?
No, sometimes my line of sight goes this way. I was moving on. I apologize. Mr. King?
No, I mean, I've been on juries before, and those are all eventually public knowledge as far as who served on the juries.
How do you feel about it, Ms. Gardner?
I feel fine.
Yeah?
I'm comfortable.
Hi, Ms. Bell. Good morning to you as well.
I'm comfortable.
Okay. Mr. Jordan?
Yeah. If I feel like the decision I made is the right one.
Okay. Ms. Williams? Mr. Brazier? I'm sorry?
I hope y'all do your job and it's good and clear, because it's really some deed what it is. I'm comfortable with it, however it lays out. We'll see how it lays out.
Okay. Please forgive me because I only have this one opportunity to speak to you. So if I follow up, I'm just, and you're like, why is he reading into everything I'm saying? That's what I'm part of my job is being nervous. What did you mean by you hope we're good at our job?
That it's all laid out and that we have good, clear understanding of it so that we can have a good conclusion, because it's going to go either way. I'm going to be good with it. And either way it's wrong, I'm going to make that call.
Gotcha. What would Mr. Adelson have to prove to you for you to find them not guilty?
It's all in y'all's hands. I don't really know. I don't have the evidence. See what
evidence.
Would he have to prove something to you?
No, he's innocent.
Okay, that was half of a trick question. So I just wanted to make sure. I just wanted to make sure that I understood your comment, because he doesn't have an obligation to do or say anything, and I have a sinking suspicion that Mr. Rashbaum will do and say plenty in terms of cross-examination, and Ms. Myers will be, examining witnesses alongside, but they don't have to do that. They could sit there and do nothing, and if the state didn't meet their burden, is everybody comfortable with that? I know that some of you aren't, and we talked about it yesterday, so you don't. Ms. Brinkley, you don't have to answer again, but others, anyone have a expectation that if you were accused of a crime, you would testify? And get up there and say, I didn't do it. And you would have that, despite what the judge instructs you. Yes?
It would depend upon if it would help my case or hurt my case.
Okay. Can anybody tell me why somebody that is accused of a crime might decide not to testify? Ms. Daigle? Okay. Yeah, why they would exercise their constitutional right to not testify. Okay. Mr. Fisher, can you think of a reason?
A court's expensive. If you say not guilty, you're going to go to court, and probably be a lot worse.
No, my point is, if somebody accused of a crime says, I have a right to not say anything, and you're not supposed to be able to hold that against someone. So if Mr. Adelson decided not to testify in his defense, that what I expect Your Honor to instruct you is that you can't hold that against him. Despite that, how many of you feel, you know what, when someone's accused of a crime, they should get up there and explain themselves? Does anybody feel that way? Why not, Mr. Braza?
Because you guys are the professionals that know the law and know what's going to be read into and how to answer the questions. You could incriminate yourself just by staying and acting the wrong way. And that's a professional.
Got it. Does anyone agree with what Mr. Braza said? That you could say something the wrong way and then it could look like. Who here has been cross-examined before? Okay. Mr. Triplett, is it easy?
No, even if you've done a lot of times, and even if you know what you're talking about, it makes you nervous, it makes you tense. And God help you if you're a naturally nervous person.
Okay.
You really come off, why does this guy look so nervous and so
Right.
shaky? That gets interpreted by some people as, he must be guilty.
Right.
And it might not be at all.
Anyone disagree? Sure? All right, I'm going to move on. Has anyone here ever worked for the Department of Corrections? Anyone here work for the Department of Corrections? No? Okay. And I want to make sure that I'm very careful with these questions. And for the folks that shared that they were going through a divorce or have been through a divorce, please, even though you've offered it up, if I say something that makes you feel uncomfortable or that you want to talk about privately, please say so. And I don't want to single anybody out. But who, besides the folks that are going through it, who here has been friends with someone or had a family member go through a divorce? Okay. Who has had experience with a child custody dispute? Okay. Dr. Rubino, do you feel comfortable talking about that? Okay. So, does anyone disagree with the notion that when there is a child custody dispute, to put it bluntly, it's not a pretty situation oftentimes? Anyone disagree with that and think that it's just smooth sailing? All right. Anyone have experience with family members getting involved to try to help? I mean, in a divorce, especially in a child custody dispute, is it fair to say that family members sort of pick a side?
From past, not my experience, but I've had friends say one parent leans more to the other. But at the end of the day, it's about the child and what their baby are part of, I believe. And I think sometimes the neutral zone gets absorbed by people's emotions.
It's and that was what I was going to get at. It's an emotional situation. Fair point. Anyone disagree with that? Okay. When it's a sibling that is going through a divorce and a child custody dispute, would any of you find it odd that a brother might say to a sister bad things about her ex-husband or soon-to-be ex-husband? Did you follow me? Does anyone find that odd, Mr. Fry? Why not?
Family. You're usually pretty protective of your family.
Okay.
Fight with them.
Ms. Bagel?
I do both ways. Of course, my sisters love me and always on my side, but they also love the husband, or my ex-husband and the father of my children. And I still have a great relationship with his family and his sister and his brother. So I see both ways.
Okay. I wish it wasn't so, but at least in my experience, that's the exception to the rule. How many of you have had experience where one sibling sides with their sibling and says some words to the effect of, well, he was no good for you anyways, or she was no good for you anyways? I see some head shaking. Miss Williams?
Yeah, I have a niece that's going through this situation right now. This is completely different. And she makes me completely different.
That's where I was going next. Sometimes, as Ms. Moore said, emotions get high, and it almost is like an opportunity to say what you really felt about the person.
I understand how this may go to your theory of the case, but this is getting very fact-specific. Do you have a better tie-in regarding the divorce?
I'm stating it as a hypothetical. It is a critical theory of the defense that just because Mr. Adelson may have been on emails where his mother was disparaging to the victim, have said things, which I don't even know that there's evidence of that the state's theory is going to be that it was a motive for murder. I find no other way, Your Honor, to be able to explore this issue without putting it as hypothetical. I'll be candid with the court. My next question is going to be, how many of you feel that just because a sibling or a family member gets behind their family member and says disparaging things about the soon-to-be ex-spouse, that could be a motive for murder?
The question of whether someone would protect their family member, that's a permissible question. The context of the divorce is really the issue that I have with this. Because again, there were individuals who stated, I don't know anything about this case. And your questions are, in fact, educating them as to the facts of a case they know nothing about.
I didn't mean to step on your words. Your Honor, I have no other way to get to this potential bias other than to create a hypothetical. I feel like it would be a violation of my client's rights to a fair and impartial jury if I was not allowed to explore what could be a potentially huge problem area for him. How else am I going to know if there's jurors sitting there that feel like if someone starts saying disparaging things about their sibling's ex-spouse, then you know what? Emotions can run so high that they'll do anything and will stop at nothing to help them. That's the state's theory, that he did in fact stop at nothing and engage in a plot to murder him.
Again, I recognize this goes to the theory of defense, but this cannot become wholesale. I'm taking you through the facts of the case as well. Do you understand the difference in what I'm saying?
I do, Your Honor, but to be candid, I'm struggling with how then to put that to this panel of prospective jurors. On my way back to the lectern, I'm gonna have to think about how to do that.
I'm not stepping on your questioning, but this cannot become wholesale. We're just going to review the facts.
With respect, Your Honor, I don't think I've done that.
I'm not saying you are. I'm merely cautioning you. Alright?
I understand. Can I have some guidance from the court as to how then, because I don't want to be back here and I don't want to offend the court, but I just want some guidance from the court as to how else I would be able to get to the issue of, their theory is that Mr. Adelson would stop at nothing to help his sister.
It could be a hypothetical about family dynamics. It could be a hypothetical about whether someone, or do they believe someone is willing to commit a crime merely because a family member is having a difficult time. Again, the specifics is where the issue comes in.
Okay, Your Honor, a difficult time is very different from a divorce.
Paraphrasing, but reversing words.
Let me ask you this, because I want to save the trips up here. I think that the next area that I'm going to get into is child relocation disputes. Most folks had never heard of it. I had to Google it, and there are attorneys that specialize in child relocation disputes. That is a fact in the case, but it's also a general area. How would I know, without asking, how many of you have heard of a child relocation attorney? How many of you have had experience where two people are going through a divorce and it becomes an issue where the children will live and they seek out, does anyone find anything odd about that? There might be people that are sitting there, if I can't ask that question, that hear that when the case starts and be like, what the heck, I've never heard of that, it's totally bizarre. That's the next area I'm going to get into. I'm not going to say you will hear it in this case, but I find no other way to be able to explore that potential bias as well.
Alright. As to that aspect, Ms. Cappleman will allow the state to weigh in. I realize I haven't allowed you to speak yet.
It's okay, Judge. No objection to inquiring whether they've ever heard of or had a child relocation issue, but to educate them on what that is, and what if one person doesn't get it, and
No,
wouldn't
no,
that
no,
make
no.
the other person mad, and then wouldn't the family be upset about it? That's
I'm
where
not,
we're starting to get.
I'm not going to do
Why
that.
does it have to be a brother and a sister in a divorce? You know, I mean, you can explore family dynamics and high emotions through family disputes in court without getting that specific.
I'm not going to make the hypothetical so analogous, and I'm not going to go where Ms. Cappleman is concerned about. Where I am going to go is, once I sort of have them explain what their understanding of it is, I'm going to ask them, have any of them think that that's odd or bizarre?
So it's clear as far as what I'm directing you on. Exploring your theory of the case is perfectly fine. Exploring whether or not they can accept your theory, that is fine. Getting into specific factuals that lean very heavy into the case is really where this may have to stop at some point. The brother, the sister, divorce. Again, there are ways in which you can explore your theme and your theory without being so factually specific.
Understood, Your Honor.
Okay. So we were talking about the subject of divorce. So let me continue. Has anybody ever been in a situation where a family member or heard of a situation where someone in your family or a friend threatened or harmed someone else because they were being protective of a family member? You understand my question? Yeah. Never heard of that? Okay. Okay. Does anybody think because a family member is critical of another family member's soon-to-be ex, that is a motive for murder? Does anyone feel that way? Okay. Why not, Ms. Bell? Yeah. So let's assume somebody in somebody's family is going through a divorce, and person A says to person B, who is their relative, he or she was no good for you anyways. I think he or she is a piece of you-know-what. Does that necessarily, in your mind, become a motive for murder? Does anyone disagree? Do you understand my question now, Ms. Bell? Okay. Mr. Conyers, do you think being critical of a family member's soon-to-be ex is a motive for murder?
No.
Why not?
If the person didn't like the person to begin with, just leave. That's no reason to murder them. Just leave if you can.
All right. Now, I know that His Honor said that the record is, the transcript is publicly available. I get that. So I'm not going to ask you to do anything other than raise your hand so no one can see. How many of you here have been critical of an in-law? Whether it's your mother-in-law, keep them up, your father-in-law, your brother-in-law, your sister-in-law. Anybody ever been critical? Okay. Will anyone be so offended by that you will think that, well, if you're critical of your in-law, well, you must be a violent person? Ms. Spates? Okay. So I guess what you're all telling me is that you don't find anything odd about someone in a family being critical of a soon-to-be ex. What if you find out that Mr. Brown that they called that soon-to-be ex some nasty names? Would that change your mind? What? Not to you. Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Has anyone ever heard of? Well, let me phrase it this way. In the context of a divorce, have any of you all heard of or had experience with an issue where, bless you again, where the spouse, where a couple disagrees about where the children should live? Mr. Jordan? Got it. Anyone, I'm going to come back to that in a minute, Mr. Jordan. Anyone else heard of or had experience with the same situation? Yeah, Mr. Brown? With his blessing. That's exactly what I want to talk about. Has anyone ever heard of attorneys that specialize in this, child relocation? Would it strike you as bizarre that family members might get involved in trying to help another family member if relocation of the children were an issue? Why not, Miss Bagel? Why wouldn't that strike you as bizarre? Okay. And when family wants to help family, does that mean that because they get involved and want to help, that they want to have the person on the other side murdered? Mr. Jordan, how did it resolve? Would anyone find it odd that a family member would try to help another family member by going to an attorney that specializes in this sort of thing? Child relocation? No one? No one thinking, is anyone thinking, why let your family member deal with it on their own? Who haven't I spoken to today? Everyone? Ms. Brinkley, do you find that odd? That a family member would help another family member try to relocate their children when they're going through a divorce?
I don't find that.
Okay. Has anyone here looked back on a relationship and said, how did I date that person? Maybe the better question is, I said it right. All right. I said it right?
Yeah.
You might have said, how in the... Did I do that?
Yeah.
All right. And is there... The better question is, has anyone here not done that? You haven't? You've always picked the perfect person. All right. That's... You got good judgment, or you're easy on yourself.
I'm picky.
You're picky. Okay. How many of you have looked back on a relationship and feel as comfortable talking about it? And you look back and think, how was I involved with that person? Yeah? Tell me about it.
Well, when I moved back home, I started dating this guy that I'd gone to high school with. And I thought he was a grown man. But as time gone by, he was very insecure. And I didn't want to be in that relationship anymore. I told him, I said, why don't you go find someone else and let me go on? And he said, if I leave him, this is what was going to happen. And I said, okay, game on. And
Wait, back up. When he said...
He said, if you leave me, and he called me a name, he said, you're going to regret this. And I said, okay, game on.
All right, is Miss Adelson present?
Yeah, I saw her in the hallway.
All right, if someone can bring her in so she can take the witness box.
Judge, may we approach before we get started?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Ms. Adelson's attorney has advised me this morning that because I had her put her phone number on the record yesterday, she's been getting blown up on her cell phone, which was not my intent. And I don't know what good it will do, but at their request, I said I would ask you to seal the number from the record whenever it's transcribed and made public, so I'll move to do that at this time orally if you'll accept it.
That's fine. I don't does the defense have any position concerning those?
No.
Very brief, very succinct. Perfect answer. All right. Lower tennis motion to seal will be granted concerning the telephone number of Ms. Adelson.
Morning. You won't have to be sworn again. You remain under oath. Let's bring in the jurors.
Concerning this line of questioning, Mr. Rauschbaum, you did go down the doorway of who she was speaking with and whether there were allegations of infidelity. I wasn't exactly sure why you were going down this path, but it has been inquired into.
I don't have a problem with the questions, with the line of questions. I have a problem with, before she answers the question, her saying, I'll remind you, we have cell-break data. That's argument. She let her answer the question, and then she started attacking her. That's why I objected.
Ms. Cappleman.
No response.
Very well. As to that, the witness being reminded of the evidence that has been collected, you're saying that's improper argument?
Yeah.
Or it's improper impeachment?
She hasn't even answered the question to impeach yet.
Very well, Ms. Cappleman, please give her an opportunity to respond first.
Yes, sir.
Objection as to argument that is denied as to improper impeachment is sustained. Jury is to disregard the last comment from the prosecutor. Go ahead.
Just say that you weren't on OkCupid at the time that you were dating Dr. Voss.
I don't know when we say I officially stopped dating Jeff Lacasse, but there's a chance that, I don't remember in 2014 whether I had gotten the app and started talking to people before we officially broke up.
So
Well, let's stop. Let me put a bookmark in it for a second, because I got to understand this as you go, because I understand what game on means, I think.
Yeah.
All right. But he was threatening you.
Yeah.
And he's saying, basically, maybe a word that starts with a B.
Yeah.
And if you leave me, I'm going to maybe hurt you, kill you, something. Kill you. All right. So keep going. First of all, I'm sorry that happened to you.
No, don't be sorry, because let me tell you, I said, okay, game on, because I don't fear no man but God. So I was not afraid. So I come here to this courthouse and I got an injunction. And I said, Your Honor, can you please explain to him what this injunction means? It means no third party, no contact, no anything. So after that, he continued to stalk me. And so therefore, I would call the police. They will come. It's like nobody never did anything. I said, okay, I know what I'm going to do. So I reached out to a few district attorneys here, and I got them involved. And I started talking to them, and I started building my own case against this man. And he got 2 years in prison for stalking me. And I said, how in the world did I get involved? I did not see it at all. Once he got comfortable with me, the representative had left. It was a different person. And he become too comfortable. And I said, I cannot settle. I cannot settle. And I'm not afraid of you, trying to hurt me or say ugly things or have people coming for me. I regret even, ugh. And I got out of it.
Your Honor, am I allowed to say how much I admire? Is that permissible? Well, good for you for standing up. Good for you. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. If this were just a regular conversation, I would say more, but good for you. But looking back, it's like you see that Chris Rock special. He's like, you're not you the first couple of dates or the first couple months. You're representative. So you look back and thought, how was I fooled, right? But you were fooled, right? Okay. Anyone else had a similar experience where they looked?
Yeah, we went to dinner and a movie, and we returned to our house on Aqua Ridge.
Right, and did she tell you anything, asked to tell you anything in confidence that evening?
Yeah, in a very serious tone of voice. Topic of conversation as we're walking up to the house is about relocation, being stuck in Tallahassee, and Danny, as the conversation always was about, Dan Markel. She said in a very serious tone of voice, can I tell you something in confidence?
Objection, Your Honor. Motion in limine.
Now overruled. Ms. Cappleman, you understand the court's rulings.
I think I do, Judge. I'd ask to approach.
Please approach.
Judge, I expect the witness's answer to be that Ms. Adelson told him in confidence, in a serious tone, that her brother had looked into hiring a hitman in the spring of 2013, and that it was going to cost either $50,000 or $15,000. He can't recall which, she said. This, I think, is admissible at this point because Ms. Adelson denied making this statement. It's offered for impeachment.
Response.
This is our exact motion in limine that you ruled could not come in. Ms. Adelson, as the prosecutor stated just 15 minutes ago, is not on trial here. Charlie Adelson is on trial.
We're going to need to send the jurors out.
Members of the jury, the bailiff is the one to escort you out. Mr. Lacoste, you can step down from the witness stand for now.
Okay.
Please step back outside.
Aww.
Thank you. May it please the court. Folks, I'm all for a laugh. I spoke to many of you in the back, and I know that sometimes levity can break up a serious moment. But make no mistake, this is the serious of matters. There's no dispute about the fact that a man quite brutally lost his life. Well, I don't mean to alienate any of you or make you feel bad, but to this man, this is no laughing matter. And I'm not here to talk to you about powdered sugar on the faces or phony liquor store robberies. This man has pled not guilty. And with that plea, he's saying, I didn't do it. And stands here accused of a crime that he did not commit. So I would ask you all to please hit the reset button. And let's be mindful of what is at stake here. And I know from speaking to each and every one of you that y'all are. Okay.
Customer service.
I was just thinking that. All right. Where they tell you this call is being recorded for quality assurance. All right. Has anyone had their calls recorded without knowing it? That you found out later? Okay. Have any of you ever sent a text message or an email and it was misinterpreted? Tell me about that, Mr. Fisher.
I mean, I'm a lazy typer, so anytime I type something, you can use many different ways. I type words instead of sentences.
Has anyone ever had the situation where they sent a text to someone and the other person picked up the phone and said, or text you back, and you said, no, you got it all wrong. That's not what I meant. This is out of context. Have you ever had that happen, Ms. Daigle?
Well, just like even with like family members in group chats and stuff, sometimes you say something and you can't text the tone. You text words, you cannot text the tone of your voice or your mannerisms, all of that. So they're very easily missed. I just meant that was you cannot read someone's tone.
Have you ever had that situation, Mr. Fry? Okay. What about emails? Has anyone ever said, why would you text me and say that, or why would you email me and say that? And you said, no, that's not what I meant. The only thing I still got going for me is my peripheral vision. So I saw Ms. Moore shaking her head. Yes.
I thought the person was yelling. So I called them and they were like, no, I wasn't yelling. Why would you think that? And I said, because you sent it all in text. Usually that's not good etiquette when you package everything in email.
You're preaching to the converted on that one. No, I've been there. Has anyone else ever been through that situation? Mr. Brown?
Yeah, and I was texting a former client saying, don't ever hesitate to call me again, and I didn't hear the hesitate part. And then I realized it and called him. But, so, yeah, those mistakes happen all the time.
All right.
Anyone disagree with that other than Mr. Fry, who hasn't had that experience? All right. One more question on this, and then I'm going to move on to a different subject. Have you ever been having a conversation with someone and someone else overhears it and misinterprets what you're talking about? Huh? Ear hustling. Have you ever heard the podcast Ear Hustle? Well, I highly recommend it. Not during this trial. But there's a podcast called Ear Hustle. But what is ear hustling? Why can that be dangerous? Mr. Jordan, you're loving this one, so tell me.
I mean, we had this situation happen just on Monday while we were here.
Go ahead.
So the person I was sitting next to was listening in on her conversation with the person next to her, and he just threw a gasket right away. Saying that she was brainwashed, and I can't sit here. Can I please go sit somewhere else?
You think he understood what you all were talking about, really?
I don't know.
Well,
his reaction seemed disproportionate to the tone of the conversation that I was having.
Okay. All right. So I confess I've heard about this incident. His Honor took appropriate action. Everything that happens here, other than your deliberations, seems to leak out. So, does anyone find it unusual that the wrong conclusion can be reached by listening to two people's conversations without actually knowing what they mean and what they're talking about? Besides that case in point, besides what happened in the courtroom, have you ever had that experience?
Probably.
Who's had that experience and remembers it and can share it? And we heard a couple of them already.
Well, I can share something.
I love it when you share, Ms. Brown.
Okay. Well, every morning, me and my husband, one morning we was having a conversation about our daughter, and she only heard what she wanted to hear. She didn't hear that Mama loves her and I want the best for her. So she come around, this is what you guys do. Talk about me every morning. This is what you all do. Come on, Tate.
You weren't talking bad about it.
I was talking about her, but not in a bad way.
Okay. So is everybody open to the idea that when you're hearing a recording of two people speaking, that people can reach the wrong conclusions? Anyone disagree with that? Okay. Does anybody know, or anybody here? You might not want. If it's somebody here and you feel uncomfortable, you could say, "I have a friend that does that." Does anyone here know someone that likes to keep cash around? Cash around. Cash in a safe. Cash in the house. Okay. Anyone think that that's odd that someone would keep large amounts of cash in a safe or in their house? Who finds that odd? Not at all? One. Tell me, Miss Spates, what's too large? What's the tipping point for you, even in round numbers, where you're like, that seems a little odd? Okay. Who disagree? Well, let me start with this. Who agrees with Miss Spates? Who agrees with Miss Spates? What if you learned it was a lot more than that?
Well, that's your business. When you keep in your house, it's your business.
Tell me about that, Miss Brown. Mr. Brown, sorry. Okay.
$1 million a year, and you have $25,000
Okay.
Food, have a large amount of cash, ammunition, whatever. I mean, they say anything.
Did you call them preppers? Oh. Oh. Who said that? Oh, thank you, Your Honor. I'm learning a lot today. I mean, I know that there were those types of folks out there. I thought that most of them were in Michigan. What?
We live in Florida, there's hurricanes.
Right.
Gas machines go down. For gas, for generators, for daily use.
Okay. All right.
It would really be weird if it was an odd denomination, like all ones or something.
You know what happens if it's all ones. Yes, doctor.
I mean, let's say you're in a cash business. More and more banks are going online. You might not have access to a physical bank to put money in the bank, right? I mean, those things are becoming less and less accessible to people.
Bless you.
My bank has no brick and mortar stores. If I were paid in cash, it would be a hassle to go and get that put into a bank account.
Okay. I only have a couple of more. What's that? I have several. I have several more. So, if somebody is in a profession where, well, let me put it to you this way: how many of you have what's referred to as a wealth bias, where you hear that someone makes a lot of money, and you're like, these rich people. No one? Does anybody have a problem with people, making a lot of money and working hard for it? And you hear things like about the 1%, would any of you, yes?
I think it depends on what you mean by a lot of money. When we're talking about billionaires, people for whom the interest on their accounts could save, we could fix world hunger, I have a little different of opinion.
Understood. Got it. Let's see if I have anything else. Can you give me a moment, Your Honor? I'm going to take yep on it. This is difficult for me because, you ever leave an important situation and perhaps the most important situation where someone's fate is in your hands and in the hands of your colleagues, and you get home, or you're in the shower or on an airplane, whatever the case may be, and you think to yourself, boy, I wish I would have said that. Man, I should have done that. Anyone ever have that situation? I think we've all had that situation. So, but before I sit down, it's hard for me to know sort of what else to ask. I mean, I've gone through my list of questions. Is there anything that you thought about last night? Is there anything that you thought about last night during my questioning today that you think we should know about, we being the defense team? Because I say to all of you assembled here today that this man has pled not guilty. Is there anything that you think we should know other than the questions I've asked? I think they would want to know this about me or how I feel about this. Think about it for a moment. Ms. Parker? Nothing?
I'm not a boastful person. I'm here to absorb everything that I hear. I'm a listener. I'm not much of a speaker, so to speak. So I'm trying to absorb everything that I'm hearing and what people's emotions are, what people are feeling, and trying to ascertain in my own mind of how that person might feel, i.e., a lot of situations here in front of me, which is, heartfelt, and I'm here in a capacity to try and make a difference.
Okay. Well, look, I on behalf of Mr. Adelson, Ms. Myers, Mr. Rashbaum, I cannot thank you enough. I'd say that to you with every cell in my body. I'm so thankful for your service. Mr. Adelson is thankful for your service, and that's okay. Blame it on me. And we appreciate your candor so much, and trust that the words that you spoke, you meant them, and that you indeed presume Mr. Adelson innocent. So, if you're picked as a juror in this case, if there's anything that comes up, whether you're told something, you see a media alert, do I have all of your words that you'll say something? Anyone reluctant about that? Okay. Well, you all have an enjoyable rest of your morning, and I thank you for your time. Thank you, Your Honor.
Let us know what you think of Mr. Dubin's tactics so far during jury selection. Do you think he is doing a good job? Do you think he had an advantage during jury selection by knowing what surprise defense Dan Rashbaum was going to reveal for the first time during opening statements? Let us know in the comments. If you want more videos like these, you know what to do. Thanks for watching, Mentor Lawyer and Ladybug.